You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about making sense of meaningless violence. I'm Frankie.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
The warden enters the Wending Wood to investigate the caravan attacks and finds wreckage being picked over by looters. After running around the woods, fighting darkspawn, sylvans, arguing with the botanist, talking statues, and doing some research, it becomes clear that not everything is as simple as it appears. We encounter an elf hell-bent on defending the woods as the home of her brutalized and murdered clan of Dalish, as well as human mercenaries ripped apart, all a ruse put together by the Darkspawn. Velena relents with the evidence we present her sister's amulet found on the body of a Darkspawn. She joins us with the intention of rescuing her sister, or at least resolving what happened to her. And we are pushed further along the narrative of this war between Darkspawn. A mysterious being puts the squad to sleep, and they wake again in captivity. Velena's sister, disconcertingly presenting as someone tainted by Darkspawn, arrives to help us escape. We fight through only to watch Sarani escape with the mysterious Darkspawn leader. Velena asks the warden to allow her into the Grey Wardens, so that way she may rescue her sister.
Yeah, more like, it's funny, we spent many episodes like setting up the dominoes, and now we are spending many episodes knocking them over. Like, we're getting the major story beats. And this was a really interesting mission. Also because only having done Awakening once, but also like kind of rushing through it, I didn't remember all of these little details going into these missions, except for the Kristoff mission. But now as I play through them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's where this happens. Or, oh yeah, we get this person as a party member. Because I couldn't really remember who my party was outside of Justice, because I mostly just used Justice and what's his name? Pain in the ass mage, whose name escapes me in this moment. Anders. Thank you. Having a senior moment.
Yeah, for me, with Velena, I remembered what she looked like. I remembered her attitude and her just overall personality.
Right.
I could not remember what her driving force was. I didn't remember that it was about her sister and it was about her people. I have a lot to say about that, actually. But before we get into it, let's dissect a couple of other things. Starting with the mother's reaction to the death of the first.
Yeah. It's really interesting that, so the mother is presented as this kind of ruthless character, and it just kind of continues to be present here. She clearly has a plan and is going to do whatever it takes to get it done. Though we're still not clear on who, like, the warring tribes are still kind of left in a big question mark. We know that there's a warring factions of Darkspawn, but at this point it's still not brought to light, like, who the mother is against. Like, their names thrown around, but it's all proper nouns in a sea of proper noun soup.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see her as ruthless. When she learned that the warden killed the first, she erupts with this sorrow. Like, we know that she planned for him to die as a result of the attack on the warden. But when somebody says that to her, when one of the other Darkspawn says that to her, she says, I didn't want him to die. I wanted him to be at peace. Which for her are very two different things.
Right.
And she talks about him returning to the song. And as we know, Darkspawn are driven by the voice, or I guess you could say the song, of the Archdemon. So what I'm left wondering is, are these factions a result of there being no leader or no uniting force for all Darkspawn? There is no song for them to listen to, and therefore no purpose in their lives. And this is their attempt at finding their purpose. Which is not something that you think about when it comes to Darkspawn, because their purpose has always been kill anything that moves that isn't Darkspawn. Defile, taint, ruin everything. And now they are still doing those things, but they're trying to do them strategically. So it's a very interesting look at an analog for zombie culture, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, the Darkspawn are effectively Dragon Age of zombies. Like, I don't think that's a stretch at all. Yeah, I mean, I guess I say she's ruthless just because, and what I mean by ruthless is probably the better word is sociopathic. Like, she is very much like, I'm sending him to die. I know he'll die in this situation. And then when she's told he dies, she's still stricken with sorrow. It's very schizophrenic also a little bit. Like it's just this kind of flip flop. Schizophrenic, I guess, is less emotion based, more personality based. But like it's very
Schizophrenic is also a like very real and very complicated um disorder.
right.
So
It's more that she flip flops in how she presents, how she's feeling, or her intent. I think her intent is layered and complicated.
I would say she's unmoored.
Yeah, and it's very apparent here that she wants to do whatever it takes, but she does clearly care about the darkspawn that she commands, but not enough to stop her from doing whatever it takes to win this war, as it were. And I think that's where the ruthlessness comes in my eyes a little bit, is that she clearly has a plan and wants to execute it at all costs.
Or is it for her that she cares so much that the loss being not in the way, like not in the service of their end goal,
Yeah.
just it shatters her because it's not what was agreed upon? Or
Yeah.
I think she cares too much, is what I'm saying.
Right, which I think goes back better to the sociopathic kind of comparison, right? Like we're not thinking about the individual lives, we're thinking about the big picture, and sometimes that can come across as callous because you are focused on the goal, not the moment to moment. Either way, definitely more with every cutscene and every moment with the mother, we do get some more dynamic information into who she is, while still kind of not knowing who she's up against quite yet. It's not clear, at least.
From there, we can return to the keep, where we are surprised by yet another powerful female figure, Kristoff's wife.
Yeah, and she approaches Kristoff immediately, aka Justice, who's walking around in Kristoff's skin, and she doesn't quite understand at first, like trying to talk to him. And when he speaks, from what we can tell, at least, because we don't know, we never met Kristoff before, when Justice speaks, it sounds like Kristoff. He's vibrating Kristoff's vocal cords, essentially, using his body. So he doesn't sound different at first, and she's confused. And then when she realizes what's happening, gets, of course, very upset, and rightfully so.
Right. She's not wrong about the desecration of the body.
No.
Justice wants to do something to help her, but
Yeah.
really the only thing is letting Kristoff rest. That's the only thing that's going to make this right for her. And I don't think we were wrong to let Justice stay in Kristoff's body, because there is this element of avenging Kristoff's death, and this is going to create closure for Kristoff's spirit in the greater sense, and also for Justice as a spirit. And Kristoff's wife just isn't wrong for like not feeling that way. She's not wrong.
No, of course not. And I think it's clear that also Justice, like, first of all, Justice doesn't want to be in this body. He's kind of trapped.
Right.
And also Kristoff immediately, or not Kristoff, Justice feels immediately badly. Like he is not, there's no sense of like, I'm doing the right thing. Like Kristoff feels, or God damn it. Justice in Kristoff's body feels bad completely and wholly. There's no like trying to cover it up or put on a tough, like he feels bad.
Yes, and I think it's really interesting that we keep mixing up Kristoff and Justice, because for Justice, there is a line blurring there, isn't there? Because he still has Kristoff's memories. He remembers who this woman is. He knows the importance of this woman to the soul and body of Kristoff, and that there are these memory imprints on the body that we just can't get rid of.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept in dealing with life after death, and like, I mean, which is something that I think Dragon Age has always done well, but this is kind of really an exploration. And as usual, some of the best characters and moments, and why Justice is one of my favorite characters, is because there's a lot of gray surrounding him for such a character whose morality is so black and white. And I think bends as time goes on a little. Still, his character is shades of gray, even if he is a very black and white character of like, I want to seek justice, I want revenge, evil should die. Everything around him doesn't bend that way, and I really love that juxtaposition.
From there, I would like to jump over to the Wending Wood properly. So when we enter the Wending Wood, the first thing we see is a destroyed caravan. We see this wreckage being picked over by looters, and once the looters realize they're no longer alone, they run away. And we have to deal with them, of course, because who
Yep.
else is going to deal with the looters except for the warden? It's not like we have something more important to do, but yeah, whatever. There are a bunch of quests that we have in the Wending Wood. We have to find the merchant silks. We have to copy inscriptions on these monuments. We have to find a botanist at the request of our friend Wynn.
Yep.
We have to get some living wood, and we also have to ultimately stop these caravan attacks. Firstly, we meet the source of all the attacks, a elfin mage named Valena, who explains to us, and I use the word explain very generously in
Yeah.
this situation, that merchants kidnapped her sister, and if her sister is returned to her, she will stop. That's a very reasonable request, honestly.
Yes.
I would also be pissed and probably murdering people if I believed that they murdered my entire tribe and kidnapped my sister.
Yeah, it is clear that she's not asking us or wondering. She knows what happened as far as she's concerned and is just executing judgment based on that fact, and informs us of that fact and that she'll kill us too if she has to.
Right. So, continuing on, we uncover clues that perhaps not everyone knows what actually happened. Humans believe that someone was behind killing a bunch of humans. Valena believes that the humans were behind killing a bunch of elves. But really, at the heart of it is the Darkspawn, playing the two against each other. We find a pit of dead bodies. We find a militia man who has been tainted by the Darkspawn, begging for death. We find an elven locket on a Darkspawn body.
Yeah, and we find a camp littered with human weapons amongst bodies where it's clear that like the humans couldn't have done the damage, but human artifacts are left behind to as
Right.
if set them up for the fall of this attack.
They were planted there.
Yep.
Let's talk about this militia survivor for 1 second. We know that he has been tainted by the Darkspawn. We can see it in his eyes. Whenever someone has been tainted, their eyes go gray. They are pale. They're sweaty. They start repeating odd phrases. Their ability to communicate breaks down. This survivor says to us, "Don't look at me," and explains to us that this was all caused by the Darkspawn. They tricked everyone into fighting each other. How did you choose to resolve this man's suffering?
I chose to acquiesce to his request and put an end to it, which wasn't an easy decision to make, and not a decision that we frame the show as decisions we would make in real life. And I'd like to think I could do that for someone, but I don't know that I could. But I am acting on the hope that I could, because my instinct, of course, which is no secret to our listeners, is to help wherever I can. But I think this is one of those situations where if we provide him aid, medicine, any kind of medicinal help, it'll only extend the suffering.
Right.
And also, it's what he wants, right? He doesn't want to become a Darkspawn. He doesn't want to.
I don't think they can become Darkspawn. I think they just suffer and then eventually die.
Would die. Yeah. I mean, or even if they don't become, like, he doesn't want to go through that process of like becoming this shadow of himself, this kind of thrall, if you will. If not a Darkspawn, this kind of like losing speech, losing themselves, and then dying is horrible regardless.
I'm using Ruck, if you remember him from Origins, as my kind of framework for what happens to someone exposed to the Darkspawn taint for a long time. I also chose to kill him mercifully, and like you, I would like to believe that I could do that for someone, knowing that the alternative is them suffering longer and more painfully.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would handle it well. Like, I think I'd like to think that I could do it, but I also know me, and I think I would probably cry a lot, and I think I'd probably be very distressed at having to do it. But I'd like to think that I would.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is like we are playing characters who have killed many a time, who have fought a lot of Darkspawn, who have seen a lot of dark things. So I think that we can't ignore that would change how we would approach something like this. whereas we as real human beings have not killed anyone or done any of that dark stuff. But like we're navigating this to our truest selves to the best of our ability, with a little bit of suspension of disbelief.
Honestly, this moment reminds me of this cartoon that I enjoy called Ruby. There is a moment for one of the characters who I think you would love. His name is Jean. And Jean has to make this very same call. He has to decide whether or not to kill someone as he is requested to do by that person.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that he handles it is, I think, the way that I would handle it, with a lot of tears, but resolve. And I think if Jean were a real person, he'd be a great addition to our podcast. Let me say that.
Okay, great. Good to know.
So if anybody is a Ruby fan out there, you know who to talk to.
I mean, I'm sure there must be. That overlap is maybe not a circle.
I know Case is one of them, because Case is the one that got me into Ruby.
Gotcha.
Also, we meet a botanist named Inez. We were requested by our good friend Wynn to go find Inez because there is this schism that is happening in the Mages College. They're talking about leaving the Chantry, which I think is an excellent idea. Anders, however, disagrees.
I was surprised
I don't
by
understand.
That. Yeah. I mean, I guess Anders believes some oversight is better than no oversight, but I don't know.
I just don't buy that. Like, I think maybe for Anders, it's less about the oversight and more about the belief, because Anders is Andrastian. He does believe in the chant, but when it comes to mages, that is where the line is drawn.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing wrong with, like, having this religious belief. Like, for example, there are plenty of queer people who still engage in religion despite there being many religious organizations that frown upon queerness, right?
Right.
But that doesn't, like, negate their religious belief in any way.
Right.
So I wonder if there's kind of an allegory, not an allegory, but an analog there. I wonder if there's an analog there for Anders where, yes, the chant often villainizes his marginalized group, but it is something for him to hang on to, and it's something that gives him a foundation and a bedrock. But personally, for me, I think that the chant is not a healthy thing for the Mages College to be attached to.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately there's got to be a better option, but when there is no other option presented, it's hard to probably see that as well. But yeah, and so when implores us to go find Ines, who is a botanist and a mage, to come join this conclave because they need every mage there to support and to like figure out what's going to happen, what's the next thing.
Particularly because she believes Inez is going to be a voice of reason, which when we tell that to Inez, it's just like, wow, she must be truly desperate.
Yeah, when we find Inez and tell her the urgency of the situation, she pretty much goes, and? Like, I mean, that's nice for you. I have plants to plant.
She's a lady who loves her dirt.
It's true.
Can't deny that.
And so in true fantasy game fetch quest fashion, she agrees to go to the meeting if we help her find these seeds for, and I wrote down the plant, a northern prickleweed. Yes. And so we have to go find that, which happens to be near the mine entrance, which is a later dungeon part of the mission, which we'll get to in a bit. We find the prickleweed, we bring it to her. She makes us some potions, gives us the recipe for said potions, and says, fine, I guess I'll go now. See ya.
Like, it's very short. There's not a whole lot to say about Inez, except for she is exactly what I expected her to be.
Yeah, especially the way Wynn is not one to mince words pretty typically, so expectations are pretty clear.
Cool. Great. From there, let's talk a little bit more about Valena's reaction to the violence she perceives against her people.
Yeah.
This woman just wants her sister back.
Yep.
And the way that she reacts to the murder and brutalization of her people makes so much sense to me as a feminine presenting person, because I think, especially as a feminine presenting person, you find yourself in these moments of potential violence a lot. And it's because men, from your perspective, are unpredictable. And you never know if something is going to escalate. And in order to discourage escalation of violence, you have to show that you're not worth it. And in doing so, you have to make it way too much trouble for them. And in doing so, you make yourself bigger, badder, more aggressive, crazier, and just show like, you don't want to mess with me because I will actually scoop out your eye and feed it to you. And you have to make them believe that. And I feel like that's where Velena is coming from. You have to react big so that way they do not question how serious you are. And you're making it way more trouble than they need. Except that's not what happens, unfortunately, for Velena, is the merchants keep pushing forward and forward and forward, so more people are dying. And she has to rip them apart, because how else is she going to make it clear to them, like, if you keep coming, bad things are going to keep happening?
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think part of that also here is she is also effectively a witch of the wild. She's not a mage in the chant either. And so those also are hunted for a whole host of other reasons. So between being marginalized as an elf, being marginalized as a mage, the only reaction is, I think, a big and bombastic reaction, because otherwise they'll kill her, which I think is part of it too, right? And it feeds into the femme side of it, but also the racial side of it, and this world's oppression of mages specifically too.
Yes, like 100%. And then we also have Justice, who doesn't understand why there would be this schism between elves and humans. And he lacks this cultural context for Velena. And he openly wonders, like, you guys are essentially the same. Why? Why would you hate each other? Like, so it's very... Justice is learning about racism.
Yeah.
R is for racism. T is for Templars. So I just think that Velena makes a lot of sense to me. Yes, she's brutal. Yes, she is violent, and she is terrifying, but she is also terrified. The one person she loves in the world has been taken away from her. The only home she's ever known is her clan, and the last place that they were has become a sacred site for her. And sacrificing that is just out of the question.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we also see this kind of bombastic pushback from other mages in the series. I mean, for sure, Morrigan comes from a similar place, has only known one life, is thrust into this adventure with the warden, and then to protect herself is often snarky, angry, rude, and violent. And I think it comes from a place of not knowing. It's why it's easy to villainize people who have a different view from you. And sometimes it's justified, but also sometimes those people are scared. And the reaction they make doesn't make it right per se, but is still something that logically our brain jumps to when we're in a very scared or cornered place.
And we also see it with mages that turn to blood magic too.
Yep.
Like, if I do this, then maybe they will stop pursuing me.
Right.
And it's sad and stressful, but I understand. If I were in a similar situation, I would want to do literally anything that I could possibly do to discourage them from coming for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But once we do get Velena onto our side by showing her the amulet we found, she lets us know that there is a mine that we can enter, and that is probably where we'll find the Darkspawn.
Yep.
But once we do enter, we don't get very far.
Nope. We are cornered and then put to sleep magically by a unseen Darkspawn that we do not at this moment know the name of.
When we do eventually see him, though.
Yeah.
He's like weirdly handsome.
It's very strange.
Like, sir, why are you so handsome?
Also, he's got this like deep voice too. This
He does. He has a good
smooth
voice.
voice. Yeah.
I knocked something over and it startled me. And it also startled my cat.
You mean that black void that I thought was part of the pillow?
Oh, she did a blep. It must be terrible to like see Deli through the screen because you cannot see all of her beautiful coloring. She has so much brown and like tan. Like she has this multitude of coloring. She's very chocolatey.
She mostly looks like a dirty pillow.
Aww. Dirty pillows are something else, Matt. That is our After Dark podcast.
Okay, yeah, all right, enough. Moving on.
So we're put to sleep and we wake up in captivity. We are wearing the standard peasant clothing, which is very generous of them to give us clothes.
Yeah.
Last time the warden was locked up, not necessarily a gift they were given.
No, just kind of in their own undergarments, and that's about it.
Yeah. Which tells me that Darkspawn are slightly more humane than Logain and Hal were when they were in control.
Yeah, true. One more reason to hate Hal and Logain.
Like, seriously, Darkspawn at least gave us clothes.
Yeah. To be fair, some of these Darkspawn are probably smarter than both of them. So
that's true. So yes, we are put to sleep. We wake up imprisoned, but Sarani shows up to rescue us.
Yeah, and it's clear by looking at her and the experience we've had before that she is under some kind of like she's been exposed to the taint.
Right? Like she has that glassy look.
Yeah.
She's extremely pale, and she's also very clearly lying.
Yeah.
Like, she's very uncomfortable with what she's telling Velena. She clearly is holding something back.
Yep.
But we don't really get a chance to figure out what's going on here because Velena's like, here's the key. This is where you gotta go. Peace.
Yeah. And then we have to fight our way out of the dungeon to get our gear back.
Can I just say, I hate this mechanically. I hate it. I understand. From a narrative standpoint, realistically, yes, your gear would be taken from you and it would be given to, like, other people.
Yeah.
That does make sense. However, it is the most annoying thing. Because now I have to cobble together, like, new armor combinations for everybody so they don't fucking die.
Yep.
Like, at least just, like, put everything in a chest for me.
Yeah, but like realistically, what are the odds that they would just dump everyone's gear in one chest and leave it unguarded? Like, which is typically the case.
I know, but still, I'm still frustrated about it, and it makes me angry.
But I think, while I understand that mechanically this could be really frustrating, it is kind of a neat idea narratively, like you say, the fact that not only do a bunch of these characters have your gear, but they're kind of clones of you almost. Like they have your abilities and like, or they're your style of character. And when you kill them, they're like little mini bosses that are like in your vein that when you kill them, then you get your gear back. I just think it's a more creative way of doing it if it is not still quite obnoxious.
Yeah, and I see that, and I understand that. I'm still annoyed by it. Like, it just frustrated me. I was like, this feels so unnecessary. Please just let me have my gear back. Yeah. Like, oh my god. I hate going through the equipment dance. I had everyone set up exactly how I wanted them to be.
Yeah. And
how
now
dare
you need to carry a paper shield and a flimsy sword until you can get your real stuff back.
Like, fortunately for me, I can still do magic.
Yeah, that's true.
But, like, Justice is out here with his fist just being like,
Well, yeah, I had to use, like, thankfully, like, one of the first enemies we killed had, like a flimsy bow, and I was able to use that magically. But, like, yeah. I mean, I could still summon my animal companion, which I did immediately. So that was helpful.
You need the extra help. But, like, give me my stuff. Just give me my stuff. And at the very end, you do get everything back. Yes. You know what? You know why it also annoyed me? Because I was not sure if you would absolutely get everything back. So, like, all my potions are gone.
Yeah.
Like, all the, like, stuff I was collecting for Wade, gone. And I'm just like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Do you know how hard I worked to get that very specific rune that I had to craft? Ah!
It's
Do
funny that
you
you
get everything
mentioned
back?
Wade, that conversation in the keep where he's like, psst, give me that good stuff and I'll make good stuff. Don't tell my boyfriend. It's basically the conversation.
That was a conversation. And honestly, I get it, Wade. Like, it's so hard to just have to make things that are normal or functional when
Yeah.
you have dreams and aspirations of being an artist and you want to create big, beautiful things.
Yeah.
And just the world does not let you. I
No.
get it. I'm with Wade.
It's just very funny because then his partner in the background, I assume they're together, is like, what are you on about? And it's like, yeah, you'll never know.
Yeah. It's like, what are you talking about? Sounds like you're doing something you shouldn't be.
I really love those characters who never show up again. It's a bummer that they just kind of disappear after this game because they're very funny. And if to be believed in the, like I said, the DLC, not as they appear as well.
Yeah, I love that little mystery to them.
Yeah, it's good.
It adds a nice little spice. We also meet a Canary merchant.
Yes, who we can not only buy stuff from and sell stuff to, but if you pursue a conversation with him, you can recommend that he goes to Vigil's Keep, where there's plenty more to be had as far as commerce goes, and which I did. And
I did too.
You can then go see him after, which is fun. And he pretty much just goes, thanks. That's it.
Well, it's funny because he's like, they pay me, so like, of course I'm here, and I'm just like, yeah, but I'm killing all of them. Maybe you need a new revenue stream.
Yeah, maybe go to my castle where then there'll be plenty of people to buy and sell stuff to.
And once we recruit our new friend, next room, we discover, oh, lo and behold, we were lured here.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. There is a dark. We now find and finally meet
the architect.
Yes, another darkspawn who is warring with the mother, and clearly has a softer demeanor, a softer touch, and is looking. I get the impression, based on the little bits that we see, that is looking for a more peaceful resolution. It's why he put us to sleep instead of fighting us. All of these other things. And unfortunately, he leaves with Sarani. We are not able to get her back.
He does claim when he first puts us to sleep that he doesn't want to fight us. He doesn't want violence. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. I don't believe that.
No, I don't either. But I mean, also, what can we believe at this point? None of the Darkspawn are acting as we would expect. So it's a little bizarre. But this is the beginnings of what will then become a fleshed out, more nuanced conflict that I don't know. At this point in the game, I'm still not sold on. It's just it's too many disparate pieces, and I can't remember how well it wraps up, which doesn't lead me to believe it's done well to begin with. But we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It has been a minute since I've played Awakening, but from what I remember, it just felt unsatisfactory when I got to the end of it the first time around. But we'll see how it goes this time around, now that we are more learned individuals.
Right, and I'm not speeding through it just to get to Dragon Age 2.
Right. So once the architect walks off with Sarani and Utha and blocks it so we cannot follow, it's clear Sarani is going willingly. Velena is very distressed about it. And we tell her, like, I mean, she's going with the Darkspawn. What we do is fight Darkspawn, so, like, I'll find her for you, I guess.
Yep, and then that's when Velena asks if she can join us, because if tasting the Darkspawn taint and becoming a Grey Warden is the way to get her sister back, then she'll do anything that it takes. And so we can agree, which, if I recall correctly, Anders isn't super jazzed about.
Justice for me.
Oh, interesting.
Justice isn't happy about it because he doesn't feel that she's an honorable person and that she's incredibly violent.
Yeah.
And on the surface, he's right, but he lacks this cultural context.
Right.
Like, we know that she's Dalish, she's a mage, she went through a horrific trauma, she reacted accordingly. Like, from her perspective, she did what she had to do to defend herself and her people. And, would we have done exactly the same in her situation? Maybe not, but maybe we would have. It's hard to know because we are not of that culture.
Yeah, no, correct. I think one thing Dragon Age is good at delivering on is interestingly complicated characters.
I agree.
I think that Dragon Age doesn't have very many boring characters. Like, even with Ogren, our favorite dwarf we love to hate, we hate him because he's a complicated, not run-of-the-mill character, right? He's not
I mean, I don't think he's complicated. I think I just don't like him.
Well, okay, he's not
he's not boring. I will say that.
Right. Like, he may not be complicated, but he's not boring. None of the characters are kind of one note. Ogren can be sometimes, but I think there is still dynamism to his character in the same way there is with a lot of the characters. I think
he has moments. He does have moments, but he often has a moment and is like, no, that was too real.
Yeah.
And then he has to undo what he did. It's like, I can't let you see me like that. Absolutely not.
But yeah, so we now have a new party member to join us. She will also, in theory, become a Grey Warden. It's funny. I don't recall ever seeing these characters do the ritual, but I guess we're just assuming that they do.
I mean, Anders and Ogren and Nathaniel all do.
Right.
Like, you watch them do it.
Right, yes. Well, not Nathaniel for me, but yes.
And then Justice doesn't have to because he's in Kristoff's body.
Right. And so it seems like Velena will, but as of now, she has not.
Right. We have to go back to the keep.
Yep.
So. And when we do that, there will be fun surprises waiting for us.
Yeah.
Yay.
Who doesn't love fun surprises?
Me. Me. I don't love them.
But in the next episode, we will be on doing a few other little things, probably back at Amaranthine and the Vigil's Keep again, some cleanup. We will also then head to Knotwood Hills, where we will recruit our last party member and see more shenanigans.
Yeah. All right. It's a fairly expeditious episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think because all of the nuance in it is in the sentence, Velena was tricked by Darkspawn. You can, there is more to it than that when playing through, but none of it was narratively nuanced, really. It was just kind of investigative, which is interesting, but mechanically, I think discussing doesn't really, there's no options. You don't have to solve it.
Yeah.
You just get the information.
Yeah. Not the most compelling of the story bits that we've done.
No, I think Justice is still my favorite at this point so far.
Well, if you like what you heard here, don't forget you can follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Blue Sky, Tumblr, and Instagram. You can also go to facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at FrankieBWrites and at DJ_Stormageddon. And on Blue Sky, we're still Frankie B. Writes and DJ Stormageddon with no underscore. I feel like you should change your Blue Sky name to DJ Stormageddon no underscore.
Thanks, but
just
no,
entirely.
I disagree, but thanks.
I think it would be fun.
Uh-huh.
And don't forget, you can rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us. Just like this 5-star review titled, "Sorry I'm Late." Sorry for the delay on leaving this review. I wanted to wait until a moment when Frankie had to ask for a lift so they'd have only themselves to blame this time when I'm late. I just discovered this podcast and I'm absolutely loving re-experiencing one of my favorite games through the host chats. They're both a ton of fun to listen to, and I've since dusted off my old 360 and started a City Elf playthrough off the back of hearing them talk about this amazing game. I thought I knew it well, but each episode comes up with a perspective or something I'd never discovered or considered. There, I left a review, Frankie. God. That is courtesy of my good friend Sam, okay, who drives me to campus every Tuesday.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Sam is wonderful, also a PhD researcher. They've done a lot of writing for TTRPGs, and they are currently replaying Dragon Age because of our conversations. So
awesome. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Sam is great, and maybe he will be on the show at some point in the future.
Sure. I mean, we're probably going to bring in a slew of guests for the second game, as that one is more mission-based.
It is. It's easier. Anyway, Go ahead, Matt. You have stuff to say.
I do. Also, if you are looking for the easiest way to rate and review us, as always, in the show notes down below, we have links to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, which are the best places to do that, though I know you can do it also on Pocket Casts and Good Pods and a bunch of other places. Really, we take reviews and ratings anywhere you can get them, so please do that. We're also members of the Certain Point of View Podcast Network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on the website to join in the conversation, as well as find that same invite link in our show notes down below. We've had a bunch of folks join recently. It's been really great to see the conversations kind of blooming in the Discord between video games and comic books, TV, movies, all sorts of really good stuff. So thanks for hanging out with us, and we're always looking for new folks to come through.
For our personal plugs, usually I take this moment to remind you that I am but a poor PhD researcher, but this time I'd really like to ask our listeners to please donate toward the GoFundMe for Nex Benedict's family. Nex was a non-binary teen who died the day after receiving a beating from their bullies. Currently, there is no official statement or connection between the beating and their death. Please consider donating. Nex's family has a GoFundMe to cover hospital and funeral expenses.
Yep. I will include that link in the show notes, and I have nothing else to promote this week. I also would like you to donate to that campaign, please. And thank you. Also, without needing to say it, I'll say it anyway. We do not condone this kind of violence, and it's actually abhorrent and ridiculous. So, I'll include that in the show notes, so go look down there for that. We'd like to thank Case Aiken for developing amazing t-shirt designs that you can find through certainpov.com or on the Certain POV Teespring. I'd also like to thank Case for designing each episode's individual artwork for the show.
We'd like to thank Reddick Wade and Echoes of Oblivion for our theme music.
Thank you to the one and only Red Spinks for designing our brand new, not so new logo that we love so much. I got it on a mouse pad recently. To see more of his work, you can go to Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
Thank you so much for listening to us this week. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon. Remember, Grey Wardens.
In war, victory.
In peace, vigilance.
In death, sacrifice.
Okay, bye!
Do you feel like you're the only person in your circle who wants to go deep about video games regularly?
We were like that too, until now.
Welcome to Crossplay Conversations, the brand new bi-weekly topical video game podcast from Luke Lewis,
Joseph Hooper,
And Jacob McCord.
with many years of breaking it down separately on shows like the Left Behind Game Club, Player Podcast, and Lukewarm Games, the gang is finally coming together to publish their gaming group chat in audio form every other week.
Expect roundtable reviews of the latest games, profiles of upcoming indies, and insightful conversations about essential topics in the video game industry. All with a mostly positive, insightful, and fun style.
Crossplay Conversations debuts on August 1st with brand new episodes hitting every other Tuesday. Help us out by subscribing on your podcast platform of choice to get the first episodes delivered straight to your feed.
And follow us on Twitter at Crossplay Convos for updates about the show.
Cheers and happy gaming.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.